Hi everybody, welcome to session 5 of the PVA architecture series. I hope you've been following along so far. If you haven't, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions to cover before you get to this point. We would recommend you kind of do them in order. However, thank you for joining us. This session, we're going to be covering some more advanced topics. Just to cover this, what is this series is for architects, developers, IT pros, to really help understand, what it takes to actually put together a PVA solution and deliver it, and understand some of the trade-offs and technical choices you need to make that successful. And as always with this series, look below in the notes. There's example materials you can follow along with for this course. As well as the slides we'll be sharing with you too. So this particular session is about, as I said, advanced topics, and these are the kind of the more gnarly things that you have to consider with PVA. Some areas where you might incur some extra work or some risk if you don't necessarily fully understand the trade-offs and decisions going into it. Mind you, with our architecture slide that covers the complete solution we're building, we're pretty much building out all the pieces around the outside now. We're going to include things like connecting to Dataverse today. We're going to talk about Omnichannel, as well as things like single sign-on as well. So, Abhi, lead us off talking about Omnichannel.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt, and thanks for this opportunity. So today I just wanted to cover a few advanced topics, as Matt said, around PVA, not the PVA solution per se, but what are the other extensibility points we have. And Omnichannel is one such very critical integration, what we have enabled with PVA. So if for the people who don't know about Omnichannel, so Omnichannel is an agent support tool, which is part of the Dynamics 365 product family. So this is used by the call center agents to receive the calls from the customers or answer their queries through chat and various other channels. So what we have done in PVA as part of our Better Together story is we have enabled fully no-code integration for Omnichannel from the PVA itself. So today you could potentially go to PVA settings, and if I can quickly show you my screen, and then you can directly, with few clicks, you can directly take configure your PVA instance to the Omnichannel. So let me just quickly show you like where it is, and then we can go back to few more data points which I wanted to share with you. So in PVA, you have this settings option, which has some of the key settings with the integration with the Omnichannel as well. So if you see the transfer to agent option here, you have the Dynamics 365 Omnichannel integration here. So what you need to do here is basically configure the application ID for the virtual agent from your Azure app registration, and then you'll be ready to go. So as you can see, the whole process is seamless in terms of you need not write any kind of code or any adapter to enable this. So you'll have a very seamless integration in terms of how, when the conversation happens in the bot, and then it gets at some point, the bot gives a signal that the user wants to talk to the agent. The Omnichannel will be sent will be sent a request or a signal, and the agent will be intimated that the user who is currently talking with the bot would like to talk with the agent. And at that point, what happens is the whole conversation gets transferred to the Omnichannel seamlessly within the same canvas. The other point which I wanted to also call out is PVA, not only with Omnichannel, PVA can also be configured to work with other such similar agent support solutions, what we call as the engagement hub solutions. So some of the common such service providers like LivePerson and few others can be like LogMeIn, can also be configured with PVA, but for this purpose, you will have to write a custom adapter to make that happen. So we also, as part of the next option you see in the screen on Bring Your Own Engagement Hub, we have provided a set of sample code for you to actually enable that integration with your third-party provider. So As you look into Omnichannel, there is definitely a lot of benefits because, as I said, it's a no-code option. So you can directly click and enable this configuration, and you have a very seamless experience in terms of escalating to the agent, where the bot conversation is transferred to the agent within the same screen without any switch. As you do that, there are a few things which you would like you to consider as an architect on what are the pros and cons of doing that. So I want to cover that as well as part of this discussion. So there are a few things which you need to consider when you onboard a PVA bot to the Omnichannel Dynamics 365 Omnichannel. So the way the architecture is set up is the Omnichannel treats PVA as yet another agent, right? So what that means is all the communication for PVA happens through the Omnichannel stack. And PVA is treated as one agent along with the rest of the human agents. So all the routing you can configure like when you want to introduce PVA in the conversation. You can typically our customers deploy the PVA as the first point of contact, and once the user starts the conversation, it's handled by PVA, and at any point when they want to escalate, it's routed to the human agent. And as you enable this integration, there are a few things to note. One is the canvas which is being used for rendering the PVA bot is completely different from the web chat widget what you might get from PVA or your own custom canvas. So in the Omnichannel product, they have given two options for this canvas. One is what they call as the live chat widget, or the LCW, which is a web chat widget which comes out of the box. And the other option for them is an SDK which they have provided for you to be able to customize this canvas. So depending on your needs, if you onboard to PVA into Omnichannel, these are the two options you have for rendering your bot. So the live chat widget is slightly more restricted in terms because it's a predefined widget template. So there are few changes you can make in terms of color scheme and appearance, but not much. Whereas if you want a very highly branded canvas for your Omnichannel experience, you are better off using the SDK, which is provided by the Omnichannel. And another key thing which I wanted to talk about is the rendering of the various visual elements of PVA into the Omnichannel canvas. So since the canvas the controls the rendering experience, there are a lot of use cases you might want to verify, especially whatever you're using around rich content like videos or animations. You want to ensure that whether it is being supported in the Omnichannel canvas as well. So Omnichannel has provided a documentation of what are such UX elements which they currently support and what they don't support. And that will be a good guidance for you as you make this decision. And the second part which I want to highlight is deploying PVA to asynchronous channels through the Omnichannel and the Twilio integration. So today, Omnichannel provides a way for their customers to reach to the Omnichannel agents through asynchronous channels like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger and so on and so forth, right? Whereas, as you know, PVA does not have a similar native integration from PVA itself for WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. So what does that mean for us as a PVA bot being onboarded to Omnichannel? So some of the key things what you need to keep in mind is, as I mentioned, the rendering and the styling, right? So a lot of these UX elements, let's say if you render an adaptive card in your regular custom canvas, it might show completely okay. But where if you deploy the same thing through to WhatsApp through Omnichannel, it is fully in the control of Omnichannel stack and also the WhatsApp rendering canvas, right? So there could be such visual elements which might appear fine in a PVA plus custom canvas rendering, but it will not work in the end-to-end with the Omnichannel and the asynchronous channel rendering. So those are a few things which you want to keep in mind as you deploy. So you want to be able to build your chatbot in such a way that you don't have these kind of blockers, and you use the kind of visual elements and options which will only render end to end along this whole stack, including the WhatsApp canvas. The other key important part is Omnichannel provides a way for you to do an attachment upload. So that comes as out of the box for the product itself. So this attachment is available for the human agent to be able to access. Let's say if the user as part of the conversation wants to upload a file or an image, the human agent can access that. The similar option today is not available end-to-end in PVA. However, we can do that using a skill integration, which is available in PVA today. So we will be shortly publishing sample code around how to do that. But that is one option for you to keep in mind, that if you have a scenario where the user is going to upload an attachment or a file, you can potentially use PVA to process that image or file using a skill extension. And another important point which I wanted to call out is the end-to-end load testing for the PVA and the omnichannel stack, including the agent escalation. So as you know, the PVA currently supports the standard capacity of 800 RPM, or the request per minute. However, omnichannel, when it goes through the omnichannel stack, it has a different set of throttling limits according to what omnichannel controls. So that is one thing which you want to keep in mind as you onboard PVA to the omnichannel stack, to ensure that depending on the volume you project for your bot, that your bot does not hit any of these throttling limits and has a poor experience. So typically when that happens, you might have scenarios like lost messages or the bot not responding, which leads to a bad experience for the end user. And finally, one other point which I also wanted to call out is today PVA has this one-to-one connection that the PVA bot can talk to only one OC instance at any given time. And there are a few upcoming things which features which we have planned for omnichannel and PVA integration. One thing which is coming up very recently is we are introducing this capability of end of conversation timeouts after inactivity. So this is a good feature because today, when a conversation is abandoned in PVA, after some time, after 30 minutes, it becomes to an inactive state. But however, it does get queued as an active queue in the omnichannel. But with this new feature which you're introducing, after 30 minutes of inactivity, this will be automatically removed from the active queue list of the omnichannel, so that the omnichannel agents will not be confused by the abandoned conversations. So those are the things which I want to cover for omnichannel. Matt?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and jump in, guys. I mean, the thing that I think about this that people get wrong is, with any kind of live agent system working with PVA, is they assume because PVA is Power Platform and agile and quick and simple, that doing this with the live agent system will also be so. And this is where the solutions can get, they don't always, but can get complicated. And definitely need to do some planning and think these things through. And I think this is what a lot of these points are pointing to, right? This is where you really do need to think about what you're trying to achieve, what's the end result, and what are the pieces and how they come together. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, absolutely. As you know, like if you're adding more layers, you will also have more complexity, and omnichannel is a completely different product as well, right? So that integration pain points are always there. So it's always good for you to look at these aspects upfront and decide mitigations so that you have a more seamless experience during implementation.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that as well. I think the big thing here is that there is some planning involved. There's likely touch points with another team, right? Whether that's your customer service team, whether that's an SI, there is going to be some planning that is required around it. And I think the other thing to really think about is, and you cover this in your first bullet, is that you are really using the OC canvas as your entry point when you get into these conversations. And it's actually some quite intelligent routing. It's actually pretty interesting. The technology is almost like magic, where it can then basically be able to route your conversation to a chat bot. So you're actually using the OC canvas. You're not using PVA canvas at all. And you're really routing to another endpoint. And then Microsoft provides a nice integrated experience for you to do that. So do think about, Stephen, I ran into this question this morning, right? Just think about styling from an OC perspective, not from a PVA perspective in these deployments.
Yes.
And just saying that, although we're saying it's complicated, obviously OC does make a very nice experience joining things together. If you're using a different piece of software, yes, we provide the hooks, but you are talking about a pro dev piece of work, right? With test cycles, with having to work out, that interaction. There are accelerators out there. I know we have something for LivePerson at this point, but it's not a settled technology interface at this point, right? So it just needs thought and planning and investigation to work out what you want to achieve, which two systems are going to go together, and how that's going to work to make it right.
So I want to talk about this another nifty feature which we have introduced which is called as the fallback topic, which gives a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to handle the user queries for which you don't have a relevant topic within the PVA bot, right? So the fallback topic is again as part of the settings, and you can go and configure there. And what we have seen that customers have used it in a very creative ways to handle scenarios where they don't have a topic for the user query. So typically you could potentially point it to a set of search results based on the user query, or you could point it to another bot using the extension what we have. You could potentially use Q&A Maker to surface a large list of singleton topics, so on and so forth. And the key point to note here is fallback topic is the only topic where you can capture the user's utterance fully. And the fallback topic only triggers when there is a no intent match. When I say no intent match, that means the AI model tried to match the user query with one of the existing topics based on the trigger phrases. It could not find a match. Only then it goes to the fallback topic and triggers it. So there could be scenarios where you're looking at a topic or a particular user query to go to the fallback topic, but it is not actually going. Instead, it's going to a PVA topic. In that case, you might want to check if there is an overlap in terms of the user's query and the existing topic of PVA, which has a matching trigger topic. So if there is a matching trigger phrase in the existing PVA topic, the preference will be always given to the PVA topic, and the AI model will always take the user to the PVA topic instead of going to the fallback. So for certain group of user queries where you want to ensure that the user is taken to the fallback topic, make sure that you don't have any conflicting trigger phrases in the PVA. So that is one way of addressing it. Matt, did you want to add anything?
I was just going to say, the fallback topic is incredibly useful, and it's also used to integrate third-party services. But you're right, Abhi. The thing says unless we can fall to fallback because we don't have a match, then it won't work. So it's important to understand how it works to make sure you can make use of it.
Going to say, it has been a pretty popular pattern for customers to leverage this. Even sometimes, we're going to talk a little bit about analytics in this session as well, but it's also interesting to use this to capture some of those topics that may be falling through the cracks and giving people signals to say, hey, let's go update our topics and go ahead and then update them because you know what's been missing. So I'd see this is pretty popular in terms of, having a Power Automate flow behind the scenes. To be able to go ahead and capture all of that information and then put it into a Teams channel, put it into a SharePoint list or Dataverse, and then being able to have some sort of a report on top of it as well. So,
talking about custom canvas, so custom canvas is one of the more widely used ways for our customers to be able to render the bot in their individual web pages, and we provide a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to surface the bot today in your web portal or in your various entry points like Teams or various other channels, right? So the custom canvas is one such way for us to be able to render the bot through the direct line option. And the key thing to note here is you can customize this canvas at various levels. The most basic need for customization comes that user wants to update the chatbot widget to their company's colors or themes, or they want to add a specific logo or things, so on and so forth, right? So to be able to do that, we have a very easy no-code way of doing that as part of the manage details option. If you go there, there is a way for you to actually quickly change the bot icon and then change the bot name and then go on with it. So that is a very fundamental level of customization you can do. The second, slightly more complex, is what we call as the web chat, the web chat widget customization. So as part of the PVA itself, we ship a web chat widget, and that is the web chat widget you see when you go to, let's say, manage channels, and then you click on, let's say, and in the custom website option, right? So in the custom website, whatever you get here is uses our built-in web chat widget. And similarly, when you click on the demo website option, you get a web chat widget which is rendering there as part of that. So that is also the same web chat widget. And the test bot what you have, that is the test client what you have, what you see here, it's also using the same widget. So this widget is having some level of customization, but not a lot. And you can configure some basic information like the header color, the themes, and some of the icons here. And if we have linked some of this documentation in this presentation as well, and you can go there, and it talks about this particular let me see, configure, yeah, customize web chat. Yeah. So in this one, there is a nice little sample code which they have given in terms of how to go and update this web chat widget, which they have called as the default canvas, which will help you to change some of those common styling elements like the size of the canvas, font size, so on and so forth. So that is another second way of doing it. And the more complex way is what we call as the custom canvas using the direct line option. So that one is the option for you to go full on with whatever updates you want to make. And the good thing about using this custom canvas is you have a lot of flexibility. Say, for example, if you want to enable a scenario like you want to upload a file as part of the conversation with the bot, you could potentially do that by introducing upload option within the chat canvas itself, right? So it is not only just the visual elements which you can update, but also functionality wise you can make a lot of changes. And similarly, if you want to, let's say, if you're using more complex or more latest versions of, let's say, adaptive cards, for example, adaptive card has come out with 1.3. But if you look at the current web chat widget, it supports only 1.2. And if you're using latest web chat widget because you want some new visual elements like checkbox and things like that, which are not in the previous version, so you are better off using custom canvas there, because in the custom canvas, you can control what adaptive card version you're using, and that way you can have a better experience. So those are some key considerations for you to decide, like whether custom canvas is a good fit for you, or you are happy with just the web chat widget. And I also said in the previous slide about the Omnichannel canvas. If you're onboarding to Omnichannel, then Omnichannel canvas is another option for you as well. So those are the key things about the custom canvas which I wanted to highlight. Matt, is there anything else you wanted to add to this?
I was just going to say, if you're generally speaking, what we would advise, if somebody's doing an external bot, a B2C bot on a public website, something like that, unless it is specifically omnichannel connected, they're going to be using the custom canvas, right? They generally want to style it specifically. The link on there links to, I mean, this is where we benefit from being part of having the bot framework underneath, because it's actually the bot framework's web chat style editing tool, the link there, which this beautiful creation on the slide here is created from. But it allows you to try out and make changes. I suppose the only other thing I was going to say with that is the reason that tool is so useful, because you can find out if you can meet customers' requirements really quickly with it. But when they want to do something that isn't supported by the style options and bot framework, is where it can get a bit gnarly, because you can go and make changes, but then it can be a lot of development work to make that happen. So there's a trade-off call there about how important is it to be styled exactly the way you want it, perhaps.
And what's the number one thing to look out for? Maybe not number one. What's a very popular thing to look out for when it comes to custom canvases? On load versus on click event.
Oh,
Yes.
oh yes, yes. Oh goodness me, that one comes a lot. Up a lot, doesn't it? Do you want to explain?
Actually, go ahead, Matt. You've had a lot of
okay.
experience.
So when using custom canvases, you can make a choice. You can load, because the custom canvas is a JavaScript developed script. You can choose when to perform the actions to load in the objects and the payload from the bot framework. You can do that when the page loads. You can if you want, but that will mean you'll be telling PVA that you're using it every single time somebody loads that page. Now, if that is what is happening, then great. But your statistics can look a bit skewed. For example, if you're loading in your canvas, but not really actually showing the bot to people. So yes, this one comes up a lot. Generally, we recommend having it on click. So you load in a widget on the page that is your chat button to click on. And then when somebody clicks that button and they've expressed an interest to then interact with the bot, then you load in the canvas, because then we will have the statistics showing that somebody actually used the bot. Because yes, that can skew things a little bit in your analytics, which we'll be covering in a minute. Classic one. Good reminder, Kent.
Okay, so I'll give an overview of this and let Matt talk a little bit more deeply around this. And in terms of single sign-on, we do have the capability for supporting single sign-on. What we mean by that is providing that super seamless experience for authentication and logging in the user today. So in the single sign-on use case, typically the bot might have a topic which requires an authentication, and the bot prompts the user with the login, and the user enters the user credentials in the regular without single sign-on. The user typically enters the user's credentials and then completes the sign-up before he can proceed further. Whereas by enabling single sign-on, the bot will take care of this token exchange for the user authentication, so that the user is not prompted again to enter his user credentials, because the bot is able to get that from the parent website or some other source, and then enables a very silent authentication experience. And this particular single sign-on option can be configured today simply by in the PVA portal itself, using our authentication settings options. For all the core scenarios where we are using Azure Active Directory mostly for our business to employee scenarios or internal bot scenarios. Right? And for external bot non-AAD scenarios, that is, if your ID provider is not Azure Active Directory, but something else like Magento or Okta or anything else. So how do we approach that? So we also are going to talk a little bit about that, and Matt is going to talk a little bit more about that. So let's start with the internal use case first. So Matt, if you can go to the slide.
Sure. So the internal use case, if you have Azure Active Directory as your internal identity provider, and you're using PVA, enabling this is pretty simple, and would highly recommend it because the experience is really nice for your users. So if this is an internal bot on your intranet or similar, then the bot can work on behalf of your user. To simplify what goes on, it's just another OAuth token exchange that you're probably familiar with if you worked with those before. What's a little bit different in the Azure Active Directory scenario here is Azure Active Directory has a what we call an OAuth flow called on behalf of. And on behalf of allows PVA to effectively operate on behalf of the user has already logged on, and we can set PVA up to work in that. So effectively, User signs into an internal website, gets a token from Azure Active Directory, and that token is then passed to PVA. It's a little more complicated than that, but effectively to allow them to log on as that user. So if you want them to appear as Matt Farmer, or Matt Farmer is working in that bot, so you can then interact with internal systems, makes it super easy to do. But the reason this is really only an internal scenario is because of that on behalf of flow within Azure Active Directory. But yes, if you've got something like this, definitely recommend setting it up. If you need to do external single sign-on, this is where things get a little bit difficult. There is some guidance we're developing. I haven't quite got it ready at the time of filming now, but we should have that ready very, very soon. So you can implement a pattern like I'm just going to walk through. This works if you're using Azure Active Directory B2C, or if you're using, as Abhi said, like Okta, or another OAuth provider. Effectively, you're going to have to do a little bit of pro dev work to make this work, but it should give you that similar smooth experience where you have the user's ID to use within the bot. So just walk through a hypothetical scenario. I'm a user, I'm browsing a website, and the website has an authenticated area. I'm going to browse to that, and because it's an authenticated area, I redirect to the identity provider to get a token. So this is my OAuth provider. I retrieve a token, and that's passed back to my browser. I then pass it back to the website to say I'm now logged in. The website lets in the authenticated user, and this is where we have to do something special now to be able to log in PVA as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a service providing with a private key that allows us to generate a JavaScript web token, JOT, with some credential information about that user. This is not the JOT that's used in the OAuth login initially. It's a secondary one, and we're going to use that and pass that to PVA. So that goes back to the browser, and we pass it into PVA. So PVA is actually, again, we use JavaScript to bring PVA into the web page, and then we pass in this JOT token to PVA as a variable. Now, when you create a global variable within PVA, there is an option there to make that variable external. We're going to pass in this JOT token as a string to that external variable. When we do that, we're then going to take that JOT token as a variable. When somebody wants to get the user's ID, which is a different variable that comes back from a bot framework skill, we will pass in the JOT token. The bot framework skill will go off, get the public key from an endpoint, pull the public key down, decrypt the token, and pass back the user's ID. So a little bit complicated. It's quite simple when you get it set up, but that's effectively the flow we need to implement to be able to sign someone in effectively as the user who signed in to a website. And let's say we've got guidance and documentation and an example coming on that pretty soon.
Awesome.
Maybe one question just on this. So when you talk about this skill and you plug this in, is that something that like, I guess, what topic do you hook that up to, or is that hooked up through some other?
Yeah, you have to call this out because it's quite clever when you see it working. But I think we'll probably have to do a video all on that. But what you do is you have a global variable defined for user ID, and when you do that, user ID gets its value from the external variable that we pass in through a bot framework skill. So I need user ID because I want to check whether somebody's logged in. And to get that, PVA then takes the JOT token and passes it to a bot framework skill and processes it. So we should only ever have to do it once per user per login. And the bot framework skill does caches things like the public key, so you don't need that more than once.
And then one other question, if I may. This would be more, I guess, on the internal use case. But sometimes we get asked about when you do hook up the Azure AD hooks, you do get that that code. You get prompted for login, and then you get the code. I guess, why do we do that? And is there a way to get around that so that you don't have to use the code?
So I think the answer to that, Ken, is yes. That sign-on experience you talk about is kind of it's part of the bot framework toolkit that we bring down. The easiest way to get around it is to implement single sign-on. So you won't. That's normally the experience people are looking for anyway when they're doing this. And even if you haven't got a signed-on area, it's sometimes easier to implement the sign-on within the website and then single sign people on if it's an internal use case. Because you normally have access to that IDP already.
And then so your two options are really like the custom canvas route that includes the single sign-on functionality, or I guess Microsoft Teams, if it was truly internal, would be another use case as well, where you won't get prompted because you have a logged in session already inside of Teams.
Exactly. We should call that out. I mean, for that internal use case, Teams is so easy to make all this work, right? You've already got the place to deploy it to. And single sign-on is really simply set up as well. So you're right.
And then you get a couple built-in claims with it as well.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we recently started supporting Teams single sign-on as well. So that's one of the most easiest way for you, especially for internal bots, to enable that.
Sorry, Abby. Advanced analytics.
Yeah. So advanced analytics, this topic itself warrants a separate session. So we will just give you a quick overview, and definitely we'll have follow-up sessions on this. So talking about analytics, as you guys know, today we already have an analytics option today in the PVA, which we have a standard out-of-the-box metrics. What we have seen is a lot of our customers, depending on their business needs, want a much more detailed set of analytics for tracking their business KPIs. So this may be a good starting point, but if they want more advanced information, like, I want to know what's the average number of turns per conversation. I want to know like what is the average time it took for each conversation, or let's say I want to know like what are the specific nuances around a conversation. They cannot do it in the existing dashboard, right? So that is when we have an option for you to be able to use these advanced analytics capabilities and build your own dashboards, which are more which are able to mine some of these more specific data points for your particular company, right? And the advanced the analytics dashboard, as you know, it comes inbuilt and it's updated everywhere, every hour. But at the same time, there is a set of metrics which is being actually dumped directly in the Dataverse as well. So the analytics dashboard, what it's showing is going through the metrics pipeline and then comes to the analytics dashboard with around a delay of an hour, whereas this Dataverse transcripts, that is what we call as the augmented transcripts, is it has a similar raw dump of these metrics directly coming from the PVA and being stored in the Dataverse. And this, you can get it in a much faster interval within a 15 minutes, under 15 minutes time frame. And what you can do using that particular transcript is build your own custom dashboards. And we have a link here where we are talking about one such use case of how to go about building your own custom dashboard using a sample dashboard which Matt has put together. So I also want to talk about when to use what options, right? So there are a few use cases which I wanted to talk through and give you an idea of when advanced analytics is a good fit for your company. So let's go to the next.
I think in almost all the customers we've come across, right, if you've done your job right and they're using the tool, this question will come up. Right, everybody wants more data and to use the data they've got.
Yes, absolutely, yes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the playbook for the advanced analytics and how to approach this problem, right? So one of the key things for you to look at is, keep in mind is the transcripts what is being stored in Dataverse will be available only for 30 days. And after that, the transcript will be deleted. But a lot of customers use cases, they want to have a trend of these metrics over a period of time, right? It's not only the last 30 days, they want the analytics, and even the the standard out-of-the-box analytics, what we show in PVA, also shows only the 30 days analytics. So that is open issue for many of the customers because they want to do a year-over-year trends, like season-over-season trends, to get more details on how the bot has been behaving and over the years, right? So for that purpose, the advanced analytics is super helpful. So one of the ways to approach this is set up a data pipeline so that you can pull the information out of Dataverse periodically and then export it to data lake and use that information to surface your own Power BI dashboards. So the typical workflow is like this. The business analyst within the company come up with a set of requirements for the custom dashboards on what are the key metrics they want to track based on their stakeholders' needs. And depending on that, they can use the sample what we have in our toolkit, what we have published for the custom dashboard, or they can build their own Power BI dashboards and their wireframes. And after that, they need to build up these DB schemas to store these metrics for based on your wireframe design as part of your whole custom canvas setup flow, and build the PBIX to be able to connect to this DB schemas for the custom dashboards. So one of the key part here is setting up the processing pipeline. So if you look at this picture over here, we have this general best practice of making sure that all the transcripts before they get deleted after 30 days gets moved to the ADLS. And so this is one pattern which we have been looking into and working on. But what we have today in the sample code is the standard approach for using the first 30 days and then build out the dashboard. But for beyond 30 days, the idea is set up a data pipeline where you can export the data to the data lake. And this is available out of box in the Power Platform admin experience itself. So you can, with few clicks, you can actually configure this and then get your data into the data lake. And from there, you have few options. You can either set up the Power Platform data flows to be able to set up these jobs for data processing, and then push them to the Power BI dashboards, or else you can use other more complex options like Azure Data Factory as well. And once you have this process transcripts, be able to parse out which are the specific metrics you want for example, if you're looking for like the conversation time, you can look into start time or end time. If you want to look at, let's say, how many of these topics how many of these user queries or topics were missed out, you could actually pull that information. So there is a wide range of information you can pull out once you have this pipeline ready and the custom metrics pipeline ready and the custom dashboards set up. So I wanted to cover a simple set of data dictionary, what we wanted to talk about, as you are going to use this conversation transcript raw data. So all this information is stored in the CDS entity or the database entity called conversation transcript entity. And it has a wide, I won't go through each one of that, but you can see that some of the key information, including the metadata, is captured as part of this, including the name of that, the title of that conversation, and what was the outcome of the conversation, so on and so forth. The next slide also covers an extension of that. So if you go there.
I think the thing with this, Abhi, is the conversation transcript is where all the juicy information is, right, with it for PVA. So if people want to go and build the stuff themselves, they need to go and have a look in here. And content itself is all the trace information, right, all the different types of things that have happened in PVA.
Yes. And so as you go through that, you can see this JSON columns here. All of these are very important. You can see like for example, the value type field basically stores it gives you the indicator of what was the outcome of that triggering for that particular user query. You could say like, okay, whether the intent was recognized or whether that intent was not recognized, or whether that particular user query resulted in did you mean topic? In the sense, multiple topics were offered to the customer. So all that information you can actually get directly from these transcripts and then use them in your custom dashboards. And if you go to the next one, again, this is another one which captures the bot ID and the AID tenant ID and the bot name as well. So all the information is available for you as part of the transcript to be able to go and play with it. And this is a simple sample transcript which we have put together. As I talked about the value type. See, the value type here is intent recognition. That means that the intent has the bot was able to match the user query with a specific topic. And in this case, it also tells you what is the topic under the title field. Tell you this is the particular topic, which is test topic with the skill author flow, right? And it will also tell you what was the trigger utterance which the user had typed. And in this case, the trigger utterance was test. Right? So all this additional information you can pull directly from this topic and parse it out and use it in your custom dashboards. So this, Matt, would you want to talk about the custom analytics?
Sure. So I mean, what Abhi's talked about there is kind of the background to what you need to be able to do and understand if you want to make your own custom dashboard from PVA. We give you all the information in Dataverse, but wouldn't it be great if we did some of that work for you already, so you didn't have to pull together all that stuff? And that's what effectively we've done. There's an open source solution we share through GitHub. The link there is at the bottom of the slide. That allows you to build up that base custom analytics solution in a combination of Power BI data flows and Power BI desktop that pulls the data out of Dataverse, creates all the trace tables for you, and then builds up a nice looking report, very similar to the one you get with PVA, but one that allows you to have a larger date range and also all the bots within one environment at a time. Let me just jump into and demo that quickly. So just to point out, this is the Dataverse. Here's all the tables. Conversation transcript here. It's the content table that has the most information. There's other data we take here, but the content table has all the JSON trace files. What we do is we use what's called a Power BI data flow, which you're familiar with from Excel or Power BI with Power Query. Queries all those tables and pulls them out of Dataverse, ready to be consumed by Power BI. So I can go and edit the data as it comes out of Power BI here, Dataverse here in Power Query running in the cloud. But I'm not going to do that now. So well, what you can see is all that content table there. So loads of JSON coming out of there. Let's jump across to Power BI desktop where we're going to use that data. And this is the example report. So if you download the pbit file, pbit is it's a template rather than a pbix, this creates this report for you. Now, what you can see in the fields here, we have a bunch of fields with lowercase letters. They're the kind of top level tables that are used to build up this report. But you also have, as Abhi called out earlier, all the different value types in that content field from conversation transcript converted to tables. So you have, for example, all the CSAT responses that people gave you. You have the intent recognition. So that's where user has passed in a value and PVA has recognized it and assigned a confidence score to it. So yes, you can use the base report as it is. Obviously, it's in Power BI, so you can deploy it to the Power BI service, share it with your colleagues and things like that. But what you can also do here is if you have particular requirements from your customer, your organization about getting particular data, you should have all the data here that we make available to make that report. So for example, if I wanted to, let's say, I wanted to do something with when, what the things were people passed into the bot. So that's the trigger utterance, right? I can pull that in. It's super tiny on the screen, but believe me, that is all the trigger utterances. and we can also drag across the intent score. So how accurately did PVA work out what the user wanted based upon what they passed in? And here's all those score numbers as well. And obviously you can turn that into different reports and diagrams based on what's required. But the point is, you don't have to do any of the data scrubbing. It's all ready to go. As I say, if you want to check that out, go to the AKS link we've got at the bottom of the slide.
Okay, so wrapping up today, we talked about omnichannel integration, the fallback topic, how to use custom canvas and when. We also talked about single sign-on, and finally the advanced analytics. So understanding how best to use these tools and techniques will help you to mitigate a lot of these potential bottlenecks in your implementation in advance. Hope you found this helpful.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everyone.